to announce the reopening of churches at the 25% capacity.
With effect from Friday, 5th June, we will begin stage 1 of the process of easing restrictions. An abridged format for religious services can commence. 25% attendance with a maximum number of 100 congregants can worship at a time in church or at the mosque, with a mandatory 1 meter rule of social distancing between congregants. In addition to the mandatory wearing of masks for all persons at all times in churches and mosques, a register of names and contact details of all worshippers and hand-washing facilities and sanitizers must be provided, with a maximum duration of 1 hour for each service.
Well, it appears now, as we begin to digest the directives as issued yesterday by the president, it is emerging that it's going to be absolutely far more difficult than it looks and sounds. We're hearing from the Muslim community. The spokesperson for the chief Imam Sheikh Arime Al-Shaibu has been talking to us about how these directives will present significant challenges in the Muslim community. He's been speaking to Gifty Andopia on the AM show on the Journey channel.
Our form of prayer is time bound and it's fixed. It doesn't change. Then you have a difficulty even saying that you're going to have session by session prayer because the time is fixed,
right?
And that sort of thing.
Right.
And secondly, our culture and tradition of worship is different. So, for example, if Chief Imam comes to Abosokai, you might have it's Herculean. I mean, to say, okay, only 100 people are entering. All of you now turn away and go back, or you are waiting. I mean, so I had mentioned that earlier on for caution.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that the details will have to be designed by the Minister of Religious Affairs. What it means is that I expect the Minister to invite inputs as to how we can effectively do this. Other than that, implementation at our level could create some difficulties, and that's why we said, for us, governments should do a proper assessment of the risk. If it's proper to lift it completely, then let's lift it, and then we now observe the protocols.
Well, the chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana, Most Reverend Dr. Paul Kwabena Boafo, is urging churches across the country not to rush into congregating if they genuinely believe the church is not ready. He also warns the Lord to deal with recalcitrant church leaders.
We are not in any way against all the protocols, the hand washing. We are not looking at a situation where you are going to throw away all these protocols, and then at the end of the day, people are infected and then they go to die in their homes. We are appealing to our members to observe the protocols that we ourselves put together and sent to the government. We will have to follow. Those who will not follow, but we want to do things contrary to what we have put forward and what has been given to us as way of preventing, then the law will deal with them. If life is at the center, then everything that we can do to preserve life, we should all be part of it.
Well, that is, of course, the view there from the Christian Council. Already, there are concerns about, the security agencies going out and enforcing this. We've been speaking with the police. They are still meeting to try and come up with strategies to enforce this. Yesterday, the president was clear that there will be random checks carried out some of these places of worship just to ensure that the directives are being complied with strictly. And the police have been tasked to arrest and prosecute people who flout the regulations. We'll talk about the legality of that very shortly. But I wanted to listen to the president of the Institute for Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies, Dr. Ishmael Norman, who says he anticipates many churches flouting the directives.
That we Ghanaians do. We don't strictly adhere to anything. And therefore, the security agencies are going to have a very difficult time trying to ensure that, for example, churches adhere to the 100-person capacity per service. is going to be very difficult. The schools are going to have an easier time because there's a definite number of final year students. But the churches is it's a fluctuating dynamic situation where people come, people go. One Sunday you have a lot of people, another Sunday you have less people. So because of the dynamic situation of church attendance, I think the security forces are going to be very difficult. Also, very difficult for a police officer to enter a church when, for example, I go to ICGC Christ Temple. For a police officer to enter there and say to Pastor up there, I want to make sure that you have 100 people. I know our general overseer is not going to go beyond, if he actually organizes a church, a service is not going to go beyond 100. But there are many places where they will not adhere to the rule, even though they are Christian churches.
Well, joining me on the telephone line right now is private legal practitioner Martin Kwebu. Mr. Kwebu, thank you for your time here on Newsline. I wonder, these new guidelines, where would government derive its powers to sanction those who may flout it?
It should be the same Imposition of Restrictions Act, that's Act 2012, 1012. Because, Evans, this is how it works. In that act, the president was given power to use executive instrument to prescribe the restrictions. So my understanding of the president's speech is that he would go ahead to now give an executive instrument, that's issue a new executive instrument. So these new numbers you've seen, 100 persons in a church or for a funeral and all the other easing of the restrictions, I expect to find them in an executive instrument. So once the executive instrument is issued, then it means that the president has exercised the power that Parliament is giving him. So after the issuance of the EI, if a congregation is more than 100 persons, then it means that the law is inflated. You say it, and so then the law will have to take its course.
Yeah, but to be able to do that, you must necessarily be present in a particular church or mosque and literally count every individual in the church to just to determine that they are more than 100. I mean, is that practical?
Well, you have a point there. You know, you have something to say that it may appear impracticable. But we have the police there. If they need help, they may have to ask the military to help. Though we know that as soon as you bring in the military, then there are apprehensions that they would brutalize people. But, well, these are very challenging times, so we may have to adjust a bit. You say it. Yes, you may just have to adjust a bit because they say half a loaf is better than no bread at all, right?
I mean, but for a law to be enforceable, the practicality aspect must be built into this. And so, for example, from what we hear from the Christian Council, from the Muslims, it appears already there's a lot of, they themselves are unsure that they can implement this. And I guess some say the alternative then is to say don't congregate at all. But I guess the problem is that there are many unorganized churches. They don't belong to any of these unions. I mean, that's where the problem is in terms of enforcing this particular law and the EI itself, which is not readily still available. I haven't seen it yet. So today, you can hold a church service, can you not? Because the previous EI is expired. You can hold a church service today with 1,000 people, and nobody can enforce the law against you.
Well, so Evan, I think it's about the same problem. Well, you're talking about, number one, the fact that the EI is expired and the new one hasn't come out. Yes, but because we've all been kind of psyched up to accept that, look, these are challenging times, so we shouldn't have the congregation, we shouldn't congregate, we shouldn't hold the church services. It's going to be minimal. I don't see people taking advantage in such a wide scale as to cause a problem for us. Now, when it comes back to the enforcement, yes, as I've already stated, well, I'm sure the president would have gone through with his advisors and they would have done their calculus well, and they suppose that they will have enough policemen to go police the churches and all that. But let's not forget that, Evans, at the bottom of all of this is our own personal health and security. So, and we've done a lot of education. So, yes, you want the law to work, but you also expect citizens to also help themselves. So, I am thinking that the very orthodox, the organized churches would try to stay within so that the work of the police will be lessened.
I'm grateful, Martin Kpebu, for that quick legal insight into how this will be applied and what the EI might do to empower the police. But let me bring in somebody who works with the police, understands these security matters. Adam Bona, Chief Executive of the Security Warehouse Limited. Mr. Bona, so tell me, you work with the police, you know how difficult it is with enforcing the previous, EIs when it comes to the churches. How practical is it that our the police service can enforce this to the letter?
Yes, good evening and good evening to your listeners. Well, I believe the president might have suggested, I don't know if it's a law, that 100 would have to congregate at a time and do an hour, believing that the churches and the mosques are going to believe because these are faith-based organizations. But other than that, even it is practically impossible. We seem to have more churches than schools in Ghana. We seem to have more churches than nightclubs. And so you can imagine the enormity of the work, how our police officers who themselves are becoming victims of COVID-19 going to respond to these facilities. And so are we going to have some digital counting machines that would count people and say 100 people have entered a church? I think the other way around is for all of us as citizens to be citizen vigilantes, where you might have to practically go into a church and count if there are more than 100 people, including the head pastor and his associate pastors. But I want to believe that it will be very difficult to enforce this law, especially as we speak. We have more than 100 officers who have been infected, and as of today, about 36 of them have recovered, which is very good. But that notwithstanding, this is very difficult, and I believe the president might have said what he said, believing that the churches and the mosques would obey. But practicality of it, it is technically going to be very difficult, because where are they going to start from and where are they going to end the month? It's going to be too difficult to enforce this particular directive.
Thank you very much, Adam Bonade, as the Chief Executive Officer of the Security Warehouse Limited. What do you make of this? 0244-340437 is the WhatsApp line. Now, the Deputy Energy Minister, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, says Tullow Ghana's announcement of a new non-Ghanaian managing director cannot be official, as the company must first discuss the matter with government. In a yet-to-be-heard interview on PM Express on the Joy News channel, tonight at 9, Dr. Amin Adams said, as a partner, government prefers a Ghanaian to occupy that position. Just a bit of background to this. The position was previously held by Kweku Awotwe, who doubled as the chief executive, the executive vice president of Tullow Oil PLC. Now, he's due to retire on June 30. Now, Tullow has already announced that Mr. Awotwe will hand over his responsibilities to Wissam Al-Mutuli, who becomes managing director, Tullow Ghana. But the Deputy Energy Minister says Tullow cannot announce a replacement when they are yet to discuss the matter with government.
Only have been informed so far about Mr. Awotwe's exit. But as to who will replace him, the company will usually come and discuss with government. And we haven't received any delegation to discuss that yet. And so if you're already talking about a foreigner having replaced him, that is not known to us, because officially we haven't discussed the replacement with the company. Yes, this is not official, because we don't know about that. And we will insist that we have discussions on that to ensure that Ghana benefits.
So what the company has already communicated publicly, as far as government is concerned, cannot be the official?
It's not official.
Until it's discussed with government?
Yes, yes, and that is usually the practice.
But don't they have the final say on this matter as a company?
Don't they have?
The final say as a company?
No, of course. I mean, we are partners. We are working together. Apart from the fact that Ghana has, a stake in the bloc through GNPC, this is the country where the activity is taking place. And government gives approvals, and permits for any company working in the oil industry. So we are a very important stakeholder. We are the host nation. You can't just move in people without discussing with officials of the government.
I get the sense that
not done.
It's government which, in further, I guess, entrenchment of your local content ambitions, that you rather prefer that position is still held by Ghanaians.
I mean, companies have their policies. There's no doubt about that, and decisions are made in their boards. We are not sitting, on their boards, and so when they make decisions, yes, they make decisions looking at their objective, their goal, their profit-mindedness, how to ensure that they achieve the objective of the company. So government will usually not impose, but as partners, we always discuss these issues. The government will put up its proposals, they will bring their proposals, we will discuss, and then we come out with a position that is mutually beneficial. And so, as you said, our preference is for a Ghanaian to be appointed. If they have already appointed a foreigner, that's not official to us because we haven't had any discussions to that effect.
Well, I want to catch the full interview and just pay attention to the context of this particular answer. He was speaking generally about local content. He gives a pretty frank assessment of where we are 10 years since we started producing oil in this country, where we are as a country when it comes to dealing or satisfying our local content regulations and giving Ghanaians the empowerment and the capacity to take leadership roles in the oil and gas sector. Fascinating thoughts there. He also deals with the issues of politics and a comparison between this current government and the previous administration when it comes to the energy sector. You want to join us at 9 p.m. For that exclusive. I want to bring in right now Mr. Kwame Jantua, who is the chairman of the oil and gas sector with the AGI. Mr. Jantua, thank you for your time here on News 9.
Thank you, Evans, and I hope you're well, and good evening to your listeners and viewers.
What do you make of the sentiments expressed there by the Deputy Energy Minister?
I think when you go to the local content regulation, LI 2204, and you go to preference in indigenous Ghanaian companies, it refers you to the first schedule, which states minimum local content in goods and services. On that schedule, it has a chart. And on that chart, this is what it says. It starts 5 years, 10 years. So it says goods and services at the start should be 10%. 5 years should be 50%. 10 years should be 60 to 90%. This is the interesting bit. When it comes to management staff, it says at the start 30%. This would have been 2007. After 5 years, the management staff should be 50 to 60%. And after 10 years, should be 70% to 80%. And then when you come to technical core staff, the start is 20%, 5 years is 50% to 60%, 10 years is 70% to 80%. Now, Tallow has been in Ghana for 10 years. Even if you take Aka Oil, who just came in, they have a Ghanaian CEO. And it's not as if Tallow hasn't had Ghanaian CEOs. They've had two. And so it goes to show that we have the capacity and the capability. And if for nothing at all, we have laws that guide us with regards to local content. So I don't really understand why Tallow decided to do it the way they've done it, because this has taken us back to 2007, 2008, 2011, 2010, 2011, when we started producing. And I think that isn't right. Cosmos has an entirely Ghanaian staff, from CEO right down to the person who opens the gate. So what is different, and why has Tallow changed it? They should tell us. They should let us understand why they have decided to go this way.
But some argue that, yes, I mean, the Deputy Energy Minister says you need to inform us. We have a preference as partners. But Tallow has a final say on this. I mean, is there an injunction on them, legally or otherwise, to necessarily appoint a Ghanaian for that position?
What are we trying to do here? We give GNPC quite a lot of money from the oil revenue. To do what? To be able to become IOCs, because we are trying to indigenize. We're trying to get Ghanaian companies interested in the industry. And what would be better for Ghanaian companies to see that the major IOCs in this country are headed by Ghanaians? It's a plus to all of us. And it's not as if we can't do it. We can do it. I've told you, Tallow, of all companies, have had two Ghanaian CEOs. So what went wrong? Where did they go wrong? Is it because of the challenges they are facing? Even better if they had a Ghanaian CEO than bringing a foreigner. Because they are, apart from being a Ghanaian CEO, there are certain nooks and crannies that you need to understand in the way we do business in this country. And so I don't think Tallow has done the right thing by bringing in a foreign CEO. I think there are people in this country who can equally take that position where Tallow is concerned.
I mean, but the bigger question, and which is what if you watch the full interview, you hear Dr. Amin addressed, to the local content question, right? I mean, and it's the time is so appropriate to have this because it's 10 years since we started producing oil in this country. His assessment, if you listen to him and watch him tonight, his assessment is that we haven't done too well as a country generally with where we are, although he talks about progress that is currently being made. What's your own assessment on that question? 10 years on, can we say that we've equipped our own people enough?
No. I've been in the industry since it started. All these local content laws and, most of the laws that came in, I've been involved in it and I practice in the industry. And it's been tough. No two ways about it. It's been very tough. You see, because the industry is so technical, we haven't been able to draw in companies. Apart from that, we also haven't had the financial resources to do offshore. And so, where I see it, we are now looking at the Voltaire Basin, which is onshore. And some of us have been preaching that we should leave the onshore oil and gas exploratory to Ghanaian companies alone, with GMPC being the main IOC there, because you don't need an FPSO that's $1 billion. You need a pump jack that you can pick up for $50,000. Again, we as Ghanaian companies need to be able to come together and work together as companies and not feel that we can do it on our own because of the technicalities of the industry. We should be able to pull downstream into upstream. So when you look at the Voltaire Basin and you look at onshore, you need tanks, you need pipelines. There are downstream companies who can do that. We need to bring them on board. Yes, I do agree. We haven't been able to. And unfortunately, governments also haven't been able to push local companies. Because even where you look at the offshore, there are shallow water blocks that Ghanaian companies can take on. Because shallow water, the depth isn't that low, it's more to the land. We need to push Ghanaian companies. We need to intentionally push Ghanaian companies like the Trinidadians did. But we as Ghanaians too should also try and think outside the box and try and take the risk. And we can only do it if, one, we build capacity within ourselves, two, we are prepared to work together, and three, we have the wherewithal to be able to raise the finances to go into it. So we come back to the banks. How are our banks structured to be able to do some of these jobs for Ghanaian companies? So within the last 10 years, we haven't been able to structure the system of oil and gas better to the benefit of Ghanaians. Because we've been looking more, governments have been looking more on the revenue side than the operational side. As we go forward, as we look at the revenue side, we should start looking at the operational side, especially with onshore production.
Mr. Jantua, I'm grateful that you joined me. Kwame Jantua is the chairman of the oil and gas sector, the AGI, with his thoughts on this. So the key question is, okay, so what is the current government doing to address these challenges that has been articulated? I want to watch the full interview with the Deputy Energy Minister at 9 p.m. on the PM Express. It deals with that. It deals with the politics of oil and gas as well, where we are currently with the challenges that we are facing, the politics of who's best handled this particular sector when it comes to energy generally, addresses that as well. And by the way, on the Tallow question, I mean, of course, we definitely have reached out to them, and of course, as and when that they feel comfortable to address the issues that have been raised, we definitely will hear from them on it. So listen to News Now on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, just before I bring in business, it's a very interesting story I need to bring you. After years of battling snake bites to access the only source of water available to them, the villagers of Bontibo can now heave a huge sigh of relief. People in this small village in the Inquanta South District of the Oti region now get water from a borehole built for them by Promasidor Ghana Limited, producers of cowbell milk. As part of the company's 20th anniversary celebrations, it is building 20 of these boreholes across the country. My colleague Justice Bedu has been to find out what difference clean drinking water can make in Bontibo.
Forgive Pogli hasn't made this journey in a while. Once upon a time, this was a daily routine. Now the road leading to the stream is bushy. She and her friend Millicent have come here because I've asked them to show me the routes that they walked for years to get water.
We have been seeing some snakes, they said cobra. We have been seeing them there, and the green ones. When we go, sometimes they'll be in the water or they are on top of the leaves.
This is Bontibo, the community where Forgive comes from. A rundown road network, no electricity and no mobile telephony network.
So we've been looking for this for a very long time at Bontibo Junction. It has been their worry, looking for this pipe. Because of the situation, they've not been giving them.
It is the reason why villagers are gathered here to show what the change means to them. In 2019, Promasidor Ghana Limited built this borehole here.
When I started campaigning, the people at Bontibo Junction said I should try to give them borehole. So when I saw them giving them the borehole, I was so happy because it's a dream come true.
In the past, the government have been promising us that they will build a pipe for us, but they didn't do it. So when this man came, he was working a company with cowbell. So when he came and told my grandfather that he will build a pipe, we did not believe him.
It was in response to many stories that the company had seen, especially from Joy News, on many communities across the country that did not have water. Promasidor is aiming at building 20 similar boreholes across the country. Like Forgive, the people of Bontibo would now have a different story to tell. They would now drink safe water, thanks in part to the benevolence of a company that has put part of its wealth back into a community in desperate need. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Bontibo.
My name is Evans Mensah, live from the studios here, Joy 99.7 FM. Still ahead, political parties strategize to begin campaigning following easing of restrictions. We'll hear from the MPP national chairman, who says the party is considering electronic voting and electronic campaigning, among others, for its upcoming primaries and, of course, the 2020 elections generally.
The party is finding ways of ensuring that the primaries are conducted. We could even consider e-voting.
We'll also hear from the NDC as it prepares to redesign its campaign strategy. All here on Newsnight.
Mix the cement in correct proportional. Hey, contractor. Hey, Buccaneer. What's your soul? Yeah, Malande. Sorry, I say. When you attend the year of return and casa. Hey, contractor. A danya wasting ye. Hey, what push mama me feel it too much? Who project here? Me friend a gas them from top to down. If you are a gas them. Hey, yes, solid pa. Hey, you see gas them man. And for soup in our do. On your quality no question. Extra gas them cement biara. I will cook a crab bee. Over 5,000 plus communities. And a gas them. I donations. SCC schools, I built a clinic. Now, when a packaging now, what's Shadara and environmentally friendly?
Never compromise on quality. Choose the value Gassam offers you always. Gassam, the nation builder.
And George, your face here with business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans. And coming up in business, importers struggle to clear goods at the port after the full takeover of trade facilitation by Unipas from today. And restaurant operators want stimulus package from government rather than the easing of restrictions on their operations. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your offers. essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you? And it has been 25 years of providing up-to-the-minute market numbers to the business community and also connecting firms to regulators of their respective markets. Let's now settle for the details. Importers today struggle to clear goods at the portal to the full takeover of trade facilitation by Unipass. Now, this was after the new managers rolled out an integrated customs management system following the exit of the Ghana Community System GCNet after an expiration of a one-month temporary contract. Let's hear from an importer, that is Anefi Kotoko, who has been complaining about the situation and how it's affecting his business.
Meanwhile, when you go to the ground, it is not working. People are sitting in the offices. Just don't know what they are doing. You understand? So whatever you say to tell us or whatever you say, it's just a mere rhetoric. You understand? I am not to see an for problem. I am with the Maritime and African Union. And we are very, very much interested in what is going on.
The Commissioner in charge of Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, that is Colonel Rita Kojo-Damwa, says they are working hard to address all these problems.
In this whole business about clearing goods, we have come here to appreciate you. We know the good job you've been doing. We have given information in the past few weeks and to some extent months about the changes that were about to take place. Now today marks a different milestone in your operation. We are aware that if you start any new thing, you are likely to have one or two challenges. So we can see that some of you genuinely have some concerns. That is why we have moved all the way from Accra to you to listen to you and then find solutions to your problems. We anticipated this, and therefore we had help desks. First, some of our experienced officers are already positioned to listen to you, know the types of problems that you have, and then each and every one of you, the appropriate solution to be found for you.
And that is the Commissioner in charge of the Customs Division at the Ghana Revenue Authority, Colonel Retired Kojo-Damwa. Now, restaurant operators say they want a stimulus package from government rather than easing of restrictions on the operations. Now, this was after the President announced the easing of restrictions as a result of the coronavirus. Executive Secretary of the Hospitality Association, that is Tudo Jeble, tells Joy Business this is really what can help turn their business around.
You wouldn't want to do a business and go home with a loss, would you? You want to do a business and then you want to make profit. So what is the use really if you're going to operate a restaurant and be making losses day after day? This is a more reason why we were pushing for the government to understand the nature of the restaurant industry and come to our aid beyond the giving of a stimulus package for all companies in Ghana, of which we are also a part. We wanted the government to specially treat the restaurants and the hotels as major sufferers, you see, of all this hullabaloo around the COVID-19. So we wanted something special. We wanted to be treated differently, and that's what we lack. And so the easing is fine. People will do business. But believe me, it will take a very long time for things to normalize.
Tudo Jeble is the Executive Secretary of the National Hospitality Association of Ghana. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers is making a strong case for the monitoring of the recent increase in the bust margin. The levy was adjusted by 100% to 6 pesos today to help support the operations of the bulk oil storage company, that's transport company. Now, the move is expected to increase petroleum prices that should have seen going up actually from this week. Let's hear from the Executive Secretary of the Chamber, Dan Kanama, who says that everything must be done to ensure that consumers are not asked to pay another adjustment in the bust margin.
Now, as to whether bust from hence would apply the funds that Ghanaians are committing to pay to the necessary infrastructure that they had promised, I'm sure that the media, civil society, and everybody within the downstream chain will have to keep an eye on there to ensure that we are not just approving funds for boss, and then in the end, they go around and dissipate these funds and only come back to Ghanaians another year to ask for some increase, funding. That would not definitely be countenance. And so we are saying that yes, they would need additional support, but as to what they are going to commit these funds to directly, the coming days will remain to be seen. But indeed, you are spot on when you say they do need some support, and that I also agree.
Executive Secretary of the Petroleum Chamber, that is Duncan Amu. And that's all for Business on Newsnight. I'll be looking forward to that interview, Evans, with the Deputy Minister of Energy. Interesting development in the oil sector, and whether we are getting what we really deserve in terms of the implementation of the local content policy, and whether we also are equipping Ghanaians also to take advantage of the opportunities in the oil sector.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting dynamic there. So you must be qualified and have the capacity so that you can get employed, but also the company is also obliged to also sort of give some room for Ghanaians necessarily to also...
There have been instances where they've given these contracts to some Ghanaians, and they were apparently fronting for some foreign firms as well. So
that's a problem.
Maybe the time has come to bring these Ghanaians together, more of a consortium, and then bid for some of these things so that we can win them. It is done here, and we employ majority of Ghanaians to take advantage of the huge opportunities in the oil sector.
You want to stay with us for that interview also. Of course, Dr. Amin Adam is a politician. He takes on the former administration and its handling of the energy sector as well. In that interview, you want to join us at 9 p.m. for that.
When you want it, just Momo it. When you tire for the long queue in the supermarket, just Momo it. And when you really want that beautiful new blouse too, just Momo it. And when you won't get that thing, when you go get fresh to impress, and you know who, just Momo it. And when you need to pay that your utility bill and domestic staff set, just Momo it. And when you want send love to the family for back home, just Momo it. So many ways there. When you go use your MTN Momo wallet, make payments with scan to pay. When you go use the QR code, or you go use the merchant ID, or on bank POS terminal. You go also transfer money between mobile money wallet and bank account, all on MTN Momo. Enjoy real convenience in all your financial transactions and live life the brighter way with MTN Momo. We are good together. Just Momo it. We're there for you everywhere you go.
We know it's important to create a productive and supportive working environment by investing in your employees' health. With a leading international track record, Apex Health Insurance is regulated and licensed by the National Health Insurance Authority to provide medical insurance services to institutional clients, families, and individuals. Apex Student Package and International Medical Solutions are all here to cushion you. Visit Apex Health Insurance Office at Zion House, Boundary Road, Shiashi, or call
0501-683-914
or 0232-000-015. In Kumasi, we are located opposite Prempeh College, Sofo Line, and in Takrady, Apex Health, your preferred health insurer.
We give you nothing but the best, we stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Boost and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Boost and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takrady.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
It's so live here on News Night. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. I want to still hear from you on our WhatsApp console, and a few of your messages are through. Kofi says, what motivated the president to ease the restrictions when our positive cases of the COVID-19 keep soaring? This is a question. This one has no name. It says, the wording of the president's directive in respect of churches and mosques is ambiguous. What does the following mean? 25% attendance. And then he goes on to talk about some of the key things that needs clarification. Nanaya sent us that one. David says, how many people are to gather for the so-called general voter registration and the Ghana card, and how many hours are compared to directive to religious bodies? A question that David is also asking. Let's stay with issues surrounding the election, shall we? Because following the president's directive yesterday, the country's main political parties have begun strategizing to start campaigning following the easing of the restrictions by the government. Check this out. The New Patriotic Party is now talking about electronic campaigning ahead of the 2020 elections. In fact, today on the election brief, which is our daily election 2020 special news program that simply highlights the key election 2020 events of the day, Freddie Blake, who was speaking exclusively on that show with Araba Kumsin, talked about their upcoming primaries and how they will have to deploy e-voting as part of the measures to deal with the current times.
We will meet possibly tomorrow or the next day. I'm talking about the steering committee, and we will take decisions that will not go contrary to the restrictions that have been imposed, even by the realization that the president has announced.
We do know that these primaries, your party's primaries, were scheduled to be held in April. A lot of time has gone by. How is this affecting your MPs?
Obviously, they are a bit quite worried and uncertain as to the future relating to the primaries. And the party is finding ways of ensuring that the primaries are conducted. We could even consider e-voting, or we could go to electoral areas to conduct the primaries. That may involve a little more money and resources. Indeed, some kind of supervision will be quite challenging, but we will manage it.
Now, the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Peter Tokono, who was also on election brief, says the party will meet to redesign its campaign strategy that will help them secure an overwhelming victory in 2020.
Our original strategy before this COVID-19 was to de-emphasize mass gatherings and rallies. So it doesn't really, change anything for us, except that now it is more severe. We are unable to even do small gatherings that will feed into our campaign strategy. But we have been meeting since, and we have been trying to redesign our campaign strategy for the year. We hope to respond to the challenges of gathering that we have with a more strategic, approach, a more effective approach.
Very well.
That will optimize our chances of securing overwhelming victory.
And that is the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Peter Tokono, speaking on election brief. Catch election brief with Abakum Singh at 1:30 p.m. on the Journal Channel every weekday. Let me bring in political communication strategist at the University of Ghana, Dr. Mensah Asante, joins us on the telephone line right now. What do you make of this very creative solutions that the parties are positing here? The NPP is fascinating me. They're talking about electronic campaigning and electronic voting.
Yeah, it is interesting that we are getting into that realm because take it or leave it. We are in this period where we have this problem on our hand, COVID-19. So parties must look beyond what they know already to be able to come out with something that will help us. And I am happy that they've really decided to go along this line to consider electronic voting and campaigning and all that. It's a good thing. All that they need to do is to sit down properly, put their heads together, come out with a strategy, look for people who can assist them to do it, and hey, we are good to go.
Well, let's see how this plays out. I'm grateful, sir. That is the political communication strategist at the University of Ghana, Dr. Mensah there. Let's do sports now, and Benedict is here with the very latest. Hello, Benedict.
The CEO Albert Komi has told Joy Sports the Ghana Football Association must just comply with the directive from President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on extending the suspension on sporting activities. Now, the GFA recently mentioned they were going to take a decision on the future of the Ghana League on June 30, but with the current situation, they would have to wait for another 2 months. Well, according to Mr. Komi, who is a former executive council member of the FA, there is nothing you can do.
We have no choice than to go by the directives of the president, because he's the father of the nation, and I think that he has been briefed to know the situation at hand, and we need to make sure that at least we adhere to whatever directive that has been given. What I'll say is that it's not too pleasant, but we have any choice. It's in our own good, because when you are dealing with a pandemic, you have to be very careful it doesn't escalate. And so, in the interest of the nation, we just all have to suffer this. But I think that we need to pray that there will be a divine intervention so that we'll come back to normalcy. There's nothing we can do.
So that's Albert Komi, who is CEO of 11 Wonders, which is the Ghana Premier League team. Now, in line with the presidential directives, the National Sports Authority has released individual non-contact sports that can resume their respective training sessions. They left 14 of them. And of course, athletics in there, badminton, table tennis, golf, powerlifting, weightlifting, cycling, drought, para sports, rowing and canoeing, and then baseball and softball, horse racing, as well as squash. And of course, you are Manchester United fan, so I know you are interested in the Igalo story. He extended his loan deal.
Oh goodness, that's good.
Yeah,
to the end of the season.
Yeah, till the end of the season.
Okay,
so
great.
January. And then Liverpool players. That's your producer. Your producer today. That's
what are they doing?
All right. So the players actually took knee around the center circle at Anfield in a message of support following the death of, in police custody of African American George Floyd.
Really? That's a good one.
You see the picture and it's lovely.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. But COVID-19 also denied them the title. So listening to News 9 is on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, the country's public university managers have been holding emergency meetings over procedures to admit students after government gave the green light to them to reopen universities. In the President's 10th address to the nation, he announced final year university students will resume classes on June 15. Listen to the details as the President laid out last night.
Final year university students are to report to their universities on 15th June. Final year senior high school SHS3 students, together with SHS2 Gold Track students, on 22nd June. In final year junior high school JHS3 students, on 29th June. JHS3 classes will comprise a maximum of 30 students. SHS classes a maximum of 25 students. And university lectures will take place with half the class sizes. All final year students of educational and training institutions which are being managed by ministries other than the Education Ministry are to return to school on 15th June to complete their exit examinations.
So that was the President yesterday. We can listen to some University of Ghana students we spoke to on these new measures.
We all have not prepared for anything like going back to school. They insisted on the e-learning. We are on it. Now they want to change and go back to that thing.
I'm quite surprised because since we started this e-learning, it's been nothing but stress. And gradually we have all adapted to it. And just when we think we are completing with our online exams, he comes in to say that we should go back to school. I mean, how? This is so out of the blue.
With this new campus directive, I believe it's going to go a long way to help us final year students. Yeah, we are there to finish everything and then graduate in peace. It's going to help because at home, well, stress and everything. I'm sure the authorities on campus will also enforce social distancing protocols and the rest, so everything will be fine.
So there's been a meeting today among management of the University of Ghana following the new directives issued yesterday by the president. Manuel Kranting is with Radio Universe, and he's been monitoring that meeting and joins us on the line. Manuel, I understand the meeting is over. What are we picking up?
Well, Evans, we're learning that the management has been working around the clock to settle on a plan that will usher students back onto campus. I cannot confirm to you what exactly the decision of management has been, but what I know is that there are a number of positions from various stakeholders in the university. For instance, the UTAC president has been telling me that the president's announcement is welcoming news to the teaching community on campus. For them, it's good to get students to come back so that they have face-to-face interactions, particularly on the practical courses and so on and so forth. Now, the SRC president, Mr. Isaac Adwan, has been telling me also that for the students, they would like to come back to campus to have their online studies, but they don't want to continue sit-in exams. They don't want to do the online examinations and so on and so forth. What we also know is that the university management has been keen on its revised academic calendar. Essentially, there was a communication on 18th of April, which categorically puts this week, June 1 to June 5, as the revision week. And so essentially you're going to have some time next week, even ahead of the official reopening of the school, according to the president. Students are already starting their exams. So it's really a very checkered situation here. But what we know is that there have been some proposals that have already been submitted to the Vice Chancellor, who is studying them, and we're expecting that sometime tomorrow a finality, like a direct communication will be made to students.
Okay, thank you very much. Quickly, I want to bring in Dr. Michael Owusu on this. Dr. Michael Owusu, very briefly, he's a virologist on this. If the president says for universities, lecture halls should have half of the class they normally would have, and of course social distancing, wearing a face mask, etc. You are in a university yourself, okay, and USC. Is that even possible?
Well, good evening, Evans, and good evening to all your listeners. I think that a lot of discussion will have to go into this. A lot of planning will have to go into this, and looking at the large population of the university, both for KNUST and for Legon, the last time I think I remember it's over 50,000 students on campus. I think that if we are not able to plan very well, then this may make it difficult. Yeah, this is fourth year. Ideally, you will expect that if there are some empty rooms, you can space them out. But the bigger question is that when there are surges in these places, and people have are coughing and sneezing, you need rapid testing to be done for these individuals. But because of the limited testing capacity, whether we'll be able to do that immediately is what we must look at. For KNUST, I know we have KCCR. For Legon, we have Noguchi. My worry is that if you expand this to the other University of Cape Coast, and other universities which don't have easy access to testing sites around, getting this done immediately, I think that it will be a very big challenge. And this is why we need to really look at this very well, plan it very well, so that we'll be able to take this smoothly in order not to put people's lives at risk.
Okay. I'm grateful, Dr. Michael Owusu there. And you want to stay with us because we're going to be crossing over to the Information Ministry, where the Religious Affairs, Chieftains and Religious Affairs Minister will be addressing the nation, detailing the specific measures that government is putting in place as churches begin to reopen. Thank you for listening to the news. Remember to brush your teeth with Pepsodent because every smile matters. Talking about that, one person who's put a smile on our faces for 3 decades is Kojo Entry. Today on Spotlight, this week we're focused on the legends. We focus on the smile has been putting on our faces in 3 decades. Kojo Entry for you, ladies and gentlemen. Batman.
For those born years after 1986 like myself, we probably have this man to thank for his rather timeless music, which teaches us all things: life, love, fidelity, marriage, you can name it. See, if you needed any advice and listen to a Kojo MP track, I bet you will be just fine. Dozens of great tracks of his numerous albums: Don't Stop the Music, Densu, Tattoo, Love Classic, Supreme, etc. The legendary Julius Kojo Ntwi's powerful lyrics, his great voice, and his evergreen performances have kept audiences entertained for all these years he's been at this game. But this man did not rise to fame overnight. From Afropop to highlife to reggae, it is no surprise he is called Mr. Music Man. I know Kojo Ntwi has got something for the live stage performances. His annual Christmas concerts draw hundreds of patrons who leave with indelible memories of an experience worth repeating.
And that is a maestro that has been putting smiles on our faces, just like Pep Sodent over the many years, about 3 decades. And that's a full news night tonight. Stay with us, because I'm going to be with you as we cross over to the Information Ministry. We're expecting the Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Minister to take to the stage soon to announce the specific directives and protocols that will govern the reopening of churches and mosques across the country. Stay with us here on Joy 99.7 FM.